What's going on, everybody? It's Gia here representing JiasWorld, and I'm back with another audio video. I will have pictures showing throughout the video. Today I'm going to be discussing net neutrality, what you need to know. And I'm going to, of course, everything that I discuss, all the information that I present in this video will be listed in the description box below so you can do your own research, okay? So I just want to make sure that I do this because I really believe that we're in a different era. Used to be a time people would tune into the news to get information, or the newspaper, or even the radio. Nowadays, people are busy, multitasking, have a lot on their plate. Some people don't watch the news, and that can become very problematic in the sense that you still need to have this information at your fingertips. So let's talk about this, okay? What is net neutrality? Net neutrality is the internet's guiding principle. It preserves our right to communicate freely online. Net neutrality means an internet that enables and protects free speech. It means that ISPs should provide us with open networks and shouldn't block or discriminate against any applications or content that ride over those networks. Just as your phone company shouldn't decide who you call and what you say on the call, your ISP shouldn't interfere with the content you view or post online. Without net neutrality, cable and phone companies could carve the internet into fast and slow lanes, and ISP could slow down its competitors' content or block political opinions it disagreed with. ISPs could charge extra fees to view content companies that could afford to pay for preferential treatment, relegating everyone else to a slower tier of service. This would destroy the open internet. Okay, so I just thought it's really important that we explain what net neutrality is. This allows us to have an open internet. This allows us to view and post and share on the internet. Okay, now I'm going to just discuss what would happen if we lost net neutrality. The internet without net neutrality isn't really the internet. Unlike the open internet that has paved the way for so much innovation and given a platform to people who have historically been shut out, it will become a closed down network where cable and phone companies call the shots and decide which websites, content, or applications succeed. This would have an enormous impact. Companies like AT&T, Comcast, and Verizon will be able to decide who is heard and who isn't. They'd be able to block websites or content they don't like, or applications that compete with their own offerings. The consequences would be particularly devastating for marginalized communities. Media outlets have misrepresented it or failed to serve. So people of color, the LGBTQ community, indigenous people, religious minorities in the United States rely on open internet to organize, access economic and educational opportunities, and fight back against systematic discrimination and oppression. Without net neutrality, how would activists be able to fight oppression? What would happen to social movements like the movement for Black Lives? How would the next disruptive technology, business, or company emerge if internet service providers only let incumbents succeed? Now, you see, this is why this is very problematic, because again, websites like the Griot and just individual Black Lives Matter Facebook pages or LGBTQ plus websites and magazines would be shut down possibly, or not have as open free market and access. And then again, marginalized communities, people of color, women, LGBTQ plus, indigenous people, lower income, marginalized people would then be denied access to information and platforms to express their experiences and whatnot. So again, this is bigger than you just being able to click on Facebook, okay? So again, all this information will be listed in the description box below. Who exactly is attacking net neutrality? Big phone companies and cable companies and their lobbyists filed suit almost as soon as the net neutrality rules were adopted. Free press jumped in and helped argue the case defending the FCC. And on June 14, 2016, a federal appeals court upheld the open internet protections in all respects. However, the ISPs are still trying to challenge these rules in court. Meanwhile, industry-funded net neutrality opponents in Congress have done everything they can to dismantle or undermine the rules. Legislators have introduced numerous deceptive bills and attached damaging riders to must-pass government funding bills. The millions of people who spoke out in support of net neutrality are fired up and ready to fight back. And you can join. Okay? Why is net neutrality crucial for communities of color? If you don't know, I am African American, I am Black, I am a person of color. So this is why I specifically want to make sure that I highlight communities of color and marginalized communities. Why is net neutrality crucial for communities of color? The open internet allows people of color to tell their own stories and organize for racial and social justice. When activists are able to turn out thousands of people in the streets at a moment's notice, it's because ISPs aren't allowed to block their messages on websites. The mainstream media have long misrepresented, ignored, and harmed people of color. And thanks to systematic racism, economic inequality, and runaway media consolidation, people of color own just a handful of broadcast stations. The lack of diverse ownership is a primary reason why the media have gotten away with criminalizing and otherwise stereotyping communities of color. The open internet allows people of color and other vulnerable communities to bypass traditional media gatekeepers. Without net neutrality, ISPs could block speech and prevent descendant voices from speaking freely online. Without net neutrality, people of color would lose a vital platform. And without net neutrality, millions of small businesses owned by people of color wouldn't be able to compete against larger corporations online, which would deepen economic disparities. Again, I need you to contact your Congress folks. I'm going to leave information on how you can reach your congressperson. And you need to let them know we need to keep net neutrality. We need net neutrality. Okay, this provides an open internet and provides free speech and platforms for people. Okay, what can you and I and what can we all do right now? So here's what we can do, right? We need to urge the agency. I'm going to read a little brief piece and then I'm going to share more information. So Chairman Pai wants to replace the agency's strong rules with voluntary conditions that no ISP would ever comply with. Pai unveiled his plan in a closed-door meeting with industry lobbyists in April 2017 and officially kicked off a proceeding on May 18, 2017, with the FCC voted along party lines to move this proposal forward. Since then, the agency has been swamped by tens of millions of comments from internet users who want to keep the protections in place. Pai is ignoring the public outcry, and the FCC will vote on net neutrality killing plan December 14th, tomorrow. That's why I'm making this video. Urge the agency to ditch the plan and tell your members of Congress to condemn Pai's attack on the open internet. The Trump administration is doing everything in its power to clamp down on dissent. If we lose net neutrality, it will succeed. So again, you need to contact your congressperson. We have to save net neutrality. I mean, how would you like it if you log on the internet and you're basically getting a la carte. You're getting charged every single time you go to a different website that's not a part of your ISP or your internet provider. You're getting charged to go on Facebook. You're getting charged to leave comments on YouTube videos. Or people such as myself won't even be able to make YouTube videos to spread information because they've blocked that. Because essentially net neutrality promotes freedom of speech. So again, think about that. Now I want to read an article from Los Angeles Times. And basically it's discussing who will benefit from net neutrality. Who will benefit and who will not, and what this a little more information. Okay. The Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, is expected to repeal net neutrality rules December 14th, Thursday, a move that will likely have major implications for internet service providers, startups, and consumers. The hotly contested move centers on a set of regulations passed in 2015 by Democratic-controlled FCC that prohibited broadband companies from blocking websites, slowing connection speeds, and charging for faster delivery of content. To enforce the rules, the FCC classified broadband as a more highly regulated utility-like service under Title II of federal telecommunication law. But in January, President Trump appointed Ajit Pai, a Republican and outspoken advocate for the repeal of net neutrality's regulations, as FCC chairman. He's argued that the fears behind the 2015 decision was hysterical prophecies of doom and said the overhang of heavy-handed regulation imposed by the FCC hurt the broadband industry and prevented investment in expanded networks. Thursday vote is suspected to fall along party lines, and the FCC is now controlled by a Republican majority. Here's who could win or lose under the new rules. Winner: internet service providers. A major point of concern for net neutrality advocates in the idea of paid prioritization, the concept that a telecommunications company could charge an additional fee to transport certain forms of content at a higher speed through its network. So again, AT&T, Verizon, Charter Communications, Comcast, Xfinity, those are the internet service providers, and there are more who would be the winners if net neutrality is struck down. Winner: large content providers. If net neutrality regulations are repealed, content providers such as Netflix or Google could end up paying more to ensure customers get the same service speed. In fact, both of these companies have lined up in favor of net neutrality. Over the summer, Netflix posted a banner on its home page showing its support, while Google elaborated on its views in a post on its public policy blog. All right? You'd be surprised. Okay? Winner: connection sensitive services. Loser: startups. Opponents of repeal say the so-called toll lanes could squeeze outgoing bargaining startups which don't have the money or influence to pay for faster content delivery. All right? In November, hundreds of companies, including tech firms, Airbnb, Foursquare, and Etsy, signed a letter to Pai urging the FCC to retain the net neutrality regulations. The letter specifically noted that the regulation rollback could put small to medium-sized businesses at a disadvantage, which is very troubling considering that President Donald J. Trump, the 45th president of the United States of America, loves to talk about creating jobs and supporting entrepreneurs and businesses. You would think he wouldn't want this to happen, but hey, you know how it is in the White House and politics. Who could possibly lose? It is still to be determined for consumers. You, me, us. Free market advocates say paid prioritization in other industries such as highway toll roads have spurred investment that benefit the larger public. In this case, that could mean more investment in broadband infrastructure, such as expanding and improving wireless and fiber networks that would increase internet access and overall data speeds. But supporters of net neutrality say consumers could be charged extra to stream certain content if they don't want to be hampered by network congestion. Others have warned that customer choice of internet service providers could shrink and prices of broadband services could increase. Net neutrality rules keep the internet open for all and ensure consumers can access the websites and apps they, not their internet service provider, choose. I'll leave a link to this as well in the description box below. Again, contact your Congress representative. Contact your congressperson. Fight for net neutrality. All right. FCC plans net neutrality repeal in a victory for telecommunications. This is brought to me and you by the New York Times. I'll leave a link to this in the description box below. The Federal Communications Commission released a plan to dismantle landmark regulations that ensure equal access to the internet, clearing the way for internet service companies to charge users more to see certain content and to curb access to some websites. This is very problematic, guys. I'll leave a link to this in the description box below. I support net neutrality. I support an open internet access. This is really troubling because something I think about too is because less and less people are using cable and people are now going to Netflix and Hulu Plus and YouTube and Google and other avenues to stream video and whatnot. It's really troubling to see this happening. And then again, people of color, lower income, LGBTQ plus, and other marginalized groups are going to be the ones, again, as consumer base, are going to be the ones suffering the most. Again, you won't be able to see videos like this that I'm recording because, again, they can censor this. Your internet service provider, your ISP, could censor what you see, what websites you're able to go to. There could be different charge increases. Just think about websites and apps that take a while to load up. You would be charged additional fees if you wanted faster access to that website or that app. And that's just ridiculous. And again, I think this has a lot to do with the fact that a lot of people are decreasing their usage of cable. And because of that, they want to increase our internet bills because let's face it, me personally, I don't really watch TV. I use my phone and I'm on the computer. I'm not really a cable watcher. But again, I feel like the internet is something that is greatly needed, and it needs to be open and free and accessible to people. I mean, you can't apply for jobs without having access to the internet nowadays. You know, people need the internet. I mean, it's to the point where, in my opinion, the internet has become a basic human necessity. People need it to live their lives, you know? So again, call your congressperson, call your Congress representative. I will leave links to how you can find out who your congressperson is. We need to save net neutrality, guys. Again, we got to stand up and we got to fight back. Save net neutrality. Contact your congressperson today.